All right, welcome back to the BFR Podcast presented by Sports Mockery. My name is Dave, cover the Bears for SM, joined by my good friend, co-host, Chicago Bears content creator, Ficky. And in the middle, it's been a little bit, he's got a new podcast, Nick Whalen. Nick, first of all, it's been way too long. How are you doing, man? How are you feeling? I know you got a new podcast. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the House Beat with Yusei Koshal. That's been fun. So we're affiliated with the Bear Report, and just being sentimental, guys. When I was a little kid, and I think we're all friends off air. Like, you guys know I'm obsessed with this sport. I like the newspaper would read the Bear Report from age 5 until whenever, and when it was a newspaper, y'all. So
newspaper,
it's kind of cool
right?
to be. Yeah, it's cool to be in that now. But honestly, man, I'm glad to be on here because you guys are both friends and we always have a good time. And there's been some fun things in Bearland.
For sure. Not just Bearland, NFL land. I feel like these past 4 days have been absurd. Whether it's, we were just talking about it. A trade just happened before this show started. Geno Smith gets linked back up with Pete Carroll, shipped off from Seattle to the Raiders for a 3rd round pick. Nick, what was your thoughts on that move? I was shocked. I
like Geno. I'm one of those people. So I was like, that's cheap. But then when you think of it, Pete Carroll's going to be 74 in September, y'all. And
don't get me started.
He's not going to let me get a young guy and develop him. He ain't got time for that, y'all. No time. So this makes sense from that perspective. So now I'm assuming Tyler Lockett's coming because he just got cut. They want to trade for DK Metcalf, probably. And Ashton Genty, sorry, Bears fans, seems like he could be the new Marshawn or whatever for the Raiders.
Yeah, I feel that. They're about to be the Las Vegas Seahawks is what I got once I saw that trade go through. But don't get me started. The ongoing joke here for us is that I'm an ageist because when we were in the coaching, search, I was like, do not give me Pete Carroll because the dude is 5 years till retirement home. So yeah, you're right. It's a win now for them. So the trade makes sense. A 3rd, it's honestly a good deal on both sides, to be honest. I thought he would have cost him at least a 2nd, but
wait, we were preparing for the show. I didn't even know it was for a 3rd.
Yeah.
3rd round pick for Geno Smith.
That's it.
I don't know. Am I crazy? That feels like a lot. Am I crazy there?
I would think I thought he could go as high as a 2nd.
Because you're going to, he needs to be extended, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has to be extended, and he's in his 30s, so he is older. So, honestly, we'll talk about it, but it's kind of like a lot of these other people that are hitting the market. Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson, which we'll talk about here later. These guys who just hit 30 still can perform, but you have to give them a new deal, and it's going to cost a good amount of money. So,
I'm just thinking with Rodgers is still out there too, which is, interesting. I don't know where he's going to end up, but anyways, Bears podcast, a lot of stuff moving. The Bears made 2 moves before. We haven't talked about it quite yet because of, I think last time we were on the pod, was it a week ago now, Ficky?
Yeah, they hadn't happened yet.
Yeah. So obviously they made 2 big moves. Jonah Jackson from LA traded for him. And then of course, Joe, how do you say, is it
Tooney?
Tooney. I've heard it a couple different ways, so I need to, I need to make sure. But what we're going to do here first, before we kind of get in some other news, is with Nick here, because first of all, I love your opinions you give on Twitter. You honestly sometimes you have different opinions than I think majority of the crowd, that's what I enjoy seeing there. So I'm going to start with Jonah Jackson. I want to know your raw instant reaction when you saw this, and then now it's been a few days. How have you digested this move? Do you like it? How are you feeling about this with polls?
Well, I appreciate it. I like to think I'm probably on an island sometimes, but I'm just honest. So I cringed instantly on the Jonah Jackson move. And then I'm like, okay, I understand the move. I don't love it. And then the more and more I've researched it, and someone that I really respect, y'all, Brandon Thorne. I don't know if you guys follow him on Twitter. His O-line takes. I would call him a friend. We've interacted a ton over the years, but he's really liked Jonah Jackson. And from everything that I've read, they've just shuffled him around way too much. It was, you're going to be a guard, then you're going to be a center, then they put you back at guard after an injury. You break your clavicle, your collarbone, y'all. Then he comes back, and they already had a thing going. He got hurt again, I think, or something. Then it was just a weird thing. But from what I've heard from Thorne and everywhere else, when he's healthy and when he's a guard, he's the top probably 7 left guard in the league. So he's going to move probably to right guard. More news we'll talk about. So I've warmed up to it a lot because of a few things. One is he knows Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson knows him. If he's in Chicago, Ben Johnson gave the stamp of approval. Like, it's not like, oh man, we're going to bring this guy in. I hope he likes him. Like, he's like, no, I like that cat. Like, I want him. And then also, are you guys seeing some of the extensions and like the money? Like they're giving like Tutu Atwell for like 10 million.
10 million.
Yeah, like Zach Braun, like good, but he's a linebacker. And 17 million, like Jonah Jackson for 17 and a half for two years. Like, I think that's probably going to be a steal. So I've warmed up to it a lot after cringing a little bit. I think you said you want a grade. Like, I think my grade for it is probably going to be a B-, because I don't love it. And I don't think I'm ever going to give like an A+. So
I think it's more than fair. Ficky, we, like I said, we have not really talked about it. I kind of think I know where you're going. What was your initial reaction to this deal?
So at first, looking at the player, obviously you're gonna recency bias. You go look at what they did last year, right? And you're gonna be like, not so great, right? So you're gonna be like, because the NFL is, what have you done for me recently? So first, I'm kind of like Nick. I'm like, oh man, I'm not too excited about that. But then when you do some more thorough research, right, you find out that his best years were when he was with Ben Johnson. That's huge. And like Nick said, this has Ben Johnson written all over. I mean, head coaches have influences on player acquisition, so this isn't something new, right? Eberflus had that for the defensive side. So, but seeing that his best years were with Ben Johnson, that's great. Also doing the research, like Nick said, you know, he had played multiple positions. And so just like when he plays at guard, that's when you're going to get the best of him. Does it mean he's going to be a Pro Bowler, you know, all pro? Maybe not, right? So I kind of viewed after all of that a C+, but, and I know we're going to talk about this next person, with the following trade that happened, I think, because I always view the offensive line as more of like a unit, right? Like compared to other positions, it's very dependent on the person next to you. Compared to wide receiver, right, or cornerback, that's one-on-one. It doesn't matter as much what the X is doing versus what the Z is doing, right? If the Z beats the guy in front of them, throw him the ball. That's not the case with the offensive line. Well, not as much. They're way more reliant on each other. So seeing who we then got next, which we're, you know, talking about Joe Thuney, I feel, and we'll talk about like how that plays out and how the final O-line is, but it's almost like the grades work together, right? So because of Joe Thuney, I almost like boost up the C+ like a B- with Jonah Jackson. But if it was just Jonah Jackson and that was the only acquisition, I'd be feeling way different about how the future of this O-line is. But what about you, Dave?
Yeah. I mean, there's more. There was always felt like there was more moves coming, you know, with Jonah Jackson. But I agree, the fact that Joe Thuney, you know, that deal happened the next day, it just vibes went, you know, way up, because I think it was very, very mixed from everybody. I felt a little bit more positive, but I'm always like that when it comes to the player acquisition stage, just because, I mean, at what we saw last year, it can only get better. Like, it has to be better. Jonah Jackson, I thought, was really interesting, and it's really, I think it's funny that you pointed out Brandon Thorne, because one of the most interesting evaluations was one of his charts from it was last year's free agency when Jonah Jackson actually signed that deal with LA. And it was a tier. It was basically ranked him, Jonah Jackson, as the 6th best guard entering last season, placing him in that tier 2 range. And it was actually one tier above Tevin Jenkins. So I want to go through some of these. So tier 1 is elite. Tier 2 is very good. Tier 3 is good above average. And then tier 4 is solid average. And that's Brandon Thorne, his ranking. So, and like I said, I think he's one of the best evaluators in at least on Twitter, maybe in around the game. Yep. And so for him, that elite tier was Quentin Nelson, Tyler Smith, Joel I don't even know how to say that name, Bitonio on the Browns. But then there was Joe Thuney on the Chiefs in that elite tier, which I thought was ironic, right? And then just below that is the very good tier. And that was Landon Dickerson, Elton Jenkins, Jonah Jackson. Now, of course, this is before last year. Jonah Jackson, boy, he was injured for majority of that year. So, I mean, to see him have such a high evaluation heading into last year, I think is good. A lot of the stuff that came out over the last few days about Jonah was change of scenery was necessary because LA kind of overpromised what he was going to be able to do there, what he was going to be doing there. So I think the versatility is nice. And then in tier 2, at the very, very last of tier 3, was the good above average was Tevin Jenkins, and he was the last one in that tier. So for me, you make, and we're going to get to Joe Thuney here in a minute, but both those acquisitions together were really good. But Jonah Jackson, I think a little nerve-wracking just because of the injury. It was like, okay, if we wanted someone like that, we could probably just maybe got to deal with Tevin Jenkins or something along those lines. So, but now moving to Joe Thuney, where you trade a fourth rounder, right?
Yeah, next year's, not even this year's. So
that's probably one of the best parts of the trade. Likely an extension coming. But Nick, now let's fast forward to the next day. Joe Thuney's coming to Chicago. You see those news from Schefter. What are your initial thoughts there? And how does that impact everything else now in regards to draft, free agency, and then even Jonah Jackson and his acquisition?
Yeah, very different mood for me. It was a little bit of like, is this fake? Like, I need to check and verify this wasn't a fake news thing. And then it was like, I remember where I was when like they traded for Cutler and Mack. It felt like one of those moments I'm like, in the Panthers trade, I was like, oh, is this legit? Because Joe Thuney is the best top 3 interior lineman in the league. Yeah, he got offensive player of the year votes last year. We're not talking like, oh man, he was a all pro 5 years ago. Last year, he got player of the year votes. So, I mean, coming to Chicago, again, the only risk is you talked about a late pick and 17 million again. Like, I was like, whoa, this is awesome. The leadership is the other part we got to talk about. When he got to KC, it was Poles' last year. That's the year KC got Creed Humphrey, and look how that development worked right next to him. He started from day one, as a rookie. He got drafted after Josh Myers and a bunch of other guys. And Trey Smith, he helped develop him too. And you also look, he was linked with Tom Brady, and then he was linked with, now Patrick Mahomes. Like, he's probably got some things where he helps quarterbacks. So it was all good vibes. And I think the best part is this. I have a sense of calm about the Bears offensive line right now because you have 2 stable things in there that they're going to be at worst. Let's say Joe Thuney regresses and whatever. They're both above average, which is not something that we've had. And instead you look at the trade market or the free agency market, Trey Smith, Mekhi Becton is looking like he's going to go back to Philly. Like around the league, we were going to be desperate. Like, who are we going to get? Like, and then it's like, we have to reach in the draft, like all the things you don't want. You don't want to be desperate. Now we can be calm. We can go BPA and free agency in the draft. And like the Bears value skyrockets from these 2 moves.
Yeah, I think that's huge. That me and Dave talked about it, and Jack previously. With free agency, it's about getting your needs now, so then you can kind of just take best player available in the draft. And I think because obviously these GMs talk, they have an idea, inkling of what these players are gonna do for the most part. And I think the word,
I love that word, inkling.
Yeah. And after
it's a good one, Vic.
Thank you. And then after the combine, because obviously they're at the combine, that's where all the rumors and all the gossip and all the stuff. That's where the Panthers deal went down, was at the combine. I'm sure Poles got an idea of like, okay, Becton's staying, Trey Smith's getting tagged. We cannot go into free agency, then getting like a tier 3 guard and having to pay them tier 1 money, right? Or tier 2. Because that's what free agency is, right? You're getting outbid by people, so the price goes up, right? So I think you nailed it on the head perfectly. They were like, let's go get, honestly, for decent deals, let's go get some guys that we know can fit our system, right? Bring a sort of leadership to the team, right? Even if they are a little bit older. And if you want like a representation or a comp of a similar move like this, the Bears actually did this in 2004, right? With Reuben Brown when they brought him on the team. Yeah, Reuben Brown, good, solid guard. And he ended up.
How do you remember that, Vic?
Yeah, bro, that was like my prime years, man. I was a little kid, so I was really loving this stuff.
Oh, my gosh. I don't remember that.
They had a squad of O-line back then, Dave. It was,
that was their best O-line.
I remember Roberto Garza, right? Or was that
Garza, Kreutz, Brown,
Fred Miller.
Fred Miller was a dog. Yes.
Yep.
That's probably their best line that they've had in my career, like my lifetime, to be honest. Like consistent, gonna be in the top 10 blocking wise. You always have like a rotational piece in there, but overall solid unit. But Reuben Brown came to the team And his first year, he did get injured. So, like, hopefully that doesn't happen. But in 2006, he had a all-pro year and our Pro Bowl year, I believe. And that was the year that the Bears went to the Super Bowl, right? Yep. So there is two things here. If we get the ceiling of both of these players, this offensive line was upgraded like threefold, like night and day change. But even if you're getting the floor of these guys, the floor of Joe Thuney is still a tier 3, in my opinion, right? Or bottom of tier 2. The floor of Jonah Jackson's probably bottom tier 2, maybe top of tier 3. Both of those tiers are still better than what we had last year. So no matter how you look at whether you love the trades or not, this is an upgrade, and you technically did not sacrifice your future that much to do it because you still haven't extended yet. And if you do for Joe Thuney, I'm here for it. That makes sense. And the value you gave up does not, it's a late 6th rounder. Okay, whatever. Those are throwaway picks anyways. And then a 4th rounder next year, which you can recoup that even in this draft, right? To prepare for next year. So I think Poles did a good job. He's great at like not mortgaging the future, right? And giving everything away to get your guy. And you can tell by national media's reaction because they're like, what? Especially with Joe Thuney. They're like, they only got him for a 4th the following year. And I'll say this for Poles, right? This is the one thing he's been great at. Dave's definitely talked about this as well, and so has Jack. Poles is great at having the flexibility because if we did not have the number 3 cap space in the NFL, you can't make moves like this. You're looking at teams that are in cap hell like Kansas City. You take on a contract, and because you take on the contract, you have the leverage. Then you don't have to give as much in return because you're taking on the money. So having that, I know it hasn't equated to wins, but it allows you to make big moves like this where there's cap casualties. So hats off to Poles. We'll see how it plays out. But like you, Nick, and I'm assuming you, Dave, I feel very positive about the moves the Bears made. But Dave, what's your thoughts on the Joe Thuney trade?
Make sure I'm unmute myself here. Yeah, this one, I think when Nick said you kind of remember where some trades are made, the Khalil Mack. I even remember when Justin Fields was traded.
Yep.
I just wanted to mention that for some reason. There was there was a comment here that said that, remember that sign I had, Ficky? It was typically all last year. It says Justin Fields is not a running back. Someone said I need to bring that back. So it kind of reminded,
be like a Woody Page on a. This is what you can do, like a Woody Page thing. There you go.
Anyways, but back to Joe Thuney. This one was, I think, when Nick said you had to double check it, I had to quadruple check just to make sure that it was legit. And it happened so fast because at first,
I love it.
That's got to go back on the background, bro.
Also, fun fact: Nick's dog is Fields in it, and your dog's name Fields.
Yeah, right? my new plates are Caleb.
You changed it though, so you've changed the dog's name as well, right? It's super.
Just rename it completely. Sorry, not to cut you off, Dave.
I wouldn't let me do that one.
No. Memories, bro. So, but no, Joe Thuney. I mean, it happened so fast because I remember it was Diana Rossini was like, "Hey, there's some." It looks like the Bears, it's in the works. Like it's not finalized. And then about maybe 30 minutes later, it was done. For me, getting him, I was like very excited that we acquired him, but for about 10, 15 minutes, we didn't know exactly what it costs. And I was like, okay, that's going to really put that's going to put a ceiling on the floor ceiling, how I felt about it. Then it was a 4th rounder. I was like, I could not believe it. And it was such a great process by Poles. I think the ability to land an all-pro guard like that, even if he has 2-3 great years with us, I mean, it's so worth it just because you got to take advantage of what we have here with Caleb Williams, this rookie contract. And the best thing you guys already talked about was now you're kind of getting closer and closer where you can BPA at the draft, where you just, however they fall, they fall. And then the guard market, I think in free agency wasn't top tier, right? Like
Trey, Becton, that was like your top 2 that you wanted, and they both.
Yeah, so but I just feel like if you had those options to get, I'm not saying Jonah Jackson, but Joe Thuney, it's like you do that every time for a 4th rounder, no less. I think it's a great deal. I'm waiting on that extension. I think I love
free agency, please.
Exactly.
Yes. You know what I mean? Yes,
I thought that was coming because I think with Montez Sweat, it was the next day.
It was pretty quick.
The
Montez Sweat trade was pretty quick. Yeah.
So now I just want that to kind of, there has to be, I want to see that get done. like you said, before Monday, preferably, because free agency is right around the corner.
And that extension will lower his cap for this year.
Exactly.
So,
True.
Yep. And that's not that Bears need it, but they're sitting around 50 million. I would like to have a few more. I just want, as much money as possible. So, but yeah, Joe Thuney, this one it makes so much sense. The leadership factor, I know people like, you hear that all the time, but seriously, the Bears do need it. They absolutely need it in a locker room. And a guy who's a 4-time Super Bowl champion, all pro last 2 years. It's like, sure, you wish maybe he was a little bit younger, right? But then he would be still in KC if that was the case. So it's like,
it'd be Trey Smith. Yeah, they'd be paying him. So.
And that's another thing. That's my final thought here was I think the move was Trey Smith. I think that was the focus. But I love how Poles and Ian Cunningham, as soon as that franchise tag was, I guarantee that's when they flipped, or they probably already had this in mind. And I just hats off to them, because getting a guy of this caliber from just a quality person, an even better leader, and then an all-pro player. The Bears need these type of, blue
especially
chip
on the line.
Yeah, exactly. Especially on the line. So, and I love that they focus basically. I know there's been other extensions, right? Blackwell, shout out to what's his face? They waived him, or they didn't tender him.
Oh, they just tender
linebacker.
Samboard.
Yeah, that one shook me, as you can see. So, but no, I just think Joe Thuney, all of the entire process is just beautiful. So I'm excited about it. I think it just raises the floor for this line. I think there's a couple more moves that we'll get to here in a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and start it with, as far as my grade, I think Thuney is an A. I don't think how you can, maybe if there's not an extension done, maybe that's worse. But for me, I think it's an A. Jonah Jackson on his own was probably around that C minus, just wasn't feeling it. But now with both those acquisitions, I would probably bump it up to about a B for me, just because I think the ceiling, and then there's smarter people than I that love the move for him. So it's like, I got to put that aside. Brandon Thorne's one of them. I think there's a couple other big O-line guys that love him, love his tape, love what Poles has done, and we'll see what the change of scenery does. So, but Nick, I want to ask you, grade both of those for me in regards to what Poles is able to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to add one other thing to this so we're talking about the Joe Thuney leadership, which is certainly there, obviously.
Yeah.
Jonah Jackson, y'all, Rams last year were, a scare to the Eagles in the playoffs, right? So he was there. Again, it didn't go well, but he's still there helping out those young guys. And then O-line.
Good point.
Year before, they should have went to the Super Bowl against the Niners, right? And he was there for the Detroit turnaround. So like he already has that. And you think of the O-line, you got Braxton, who's young. You got Darnell Wright, who's young. And if we want to get to it, I'm an anti-pay Drew Dalman, whatever he wants, like blank check, like it sounds like a lot of Bears Twitter is. They could put a young guy.
You said you're anti?
Anti. He doesn't want to give $20 million to Drew Dalman, which I agree with. But
so but to me, both of those guys got leadership. So I would go. I'm with you. I'm an A on Thuney. I'll never give an A+ to anything. Just how I am. And then I'm a B- on Jonah Jackson. Just some injuries. And then that was more of my initial plus, I think, after I've gotten some analysis from Brandon Thorne, etc.
Yeah, Nick, we think the same, because I'm in the same boat. It was like an A with Thuney. It's kind of hard to not. That's one of the best linemen we've had on this team in a decade plus. Mm-hmm. So A for that, and then I was like a C+, like I mentioned earlier, but I bumped up to B- after doing research, particularly knowing that his best years were with Ben Johnson, and knowing that Ben Johnson's obviously our head coach. That's a stamp of approval, like you said, Nick. So I feel really good about that. But guys, think about this though. Offensive line last year, and we're not even done. Just in less than 48 hours of they did these two trades in less than 48 hours. So think about that. It was basically one day. But in basically one day, this offensive line went from Braxton Jones, Matt Pryor, Tevin Jenkins, whoever the hell our center was. I can't even. Coleman Shelton, Matt Pryor, I think I already said, and Darnell Wright. And now it's Darnell Wright, Jonah Jackson, whoever our center will be, because Coleman Shelton is actually not under contract. Joe Thuney and Braxton Jones. I don't know about y'all, but that feels very, very night and day. night and day from what we had, like huge upgrades. And I'm on the boat with viewing our tackles. Like, I think Darnell Wright's a pretty good tackle. Is he all pro, the top 5 tackle? No, but he is very, he could be at some point, right? I think he has shown a lot of
jury's still out. Yeah.
Yeah. Braxton Jones, bull rush, obviously his biggest weakness. We know that, but he has been serviceable. He's not, you don't look at Braxton Jones and go, oh, that has to be like, it's a high need to replace him. So again, we're talking as a unit wise, you have 2 solid tackles, right? 1 great guard and a solid guard. So you feel,
I wouldn't even say great. I would say elite.
Yeah, elite. Yes. That's fine. Yeah,
like,
elite.
Great, guard, just it does a disservice to me. I'm like, this guy
Joe
is
Tooney's elite.
I don't know how much better you can get.
No, that's fair. That's fair. He's elite. That's fair. But you have an elite guard. No, it's good. That's actually a great.
Sounds better too, though.
Yeah. Elite guard, which we've never had elite anything on the slide, and then like 3 good to great guys. I will take that any time of the day. And I think that leads to a good transition now, looking at Drew Dahlman, right? Right now, I think they say, 12 to 14 million per year for a center. Is it higher than that?
I'm thinking it's going to be higher.
Look, it's free agency. So, it's free agency. So obviously the price goes up. So I wouldn't be surprised. But if you're telling me we get him under 15 million, I'm okay with it because he's still like the 4th best center, I guess, depending on who you ask. I've heard some people say like 4 to 6, like center in the league. Right. That's good. I will take that. But if you start to reach near the 20 million, then I'll probably be out. But Dave, what'd you find? What's his
So it's looking projected contract, and I know some people hate PFF. I think, do you use PFF or do you use OTC?
OTC.
I used to use PFF, and then they got rid of everybody, and some guys have left, like my buddy Brad Spielberger, and I'm like, I don't know how much I trust their staff now. I'm friends with one person on their staff, Trevor Sycamore. I think he's
Trevor's great. Trevor's great
dude. Yeah, I've known him for years, but like. Other than that, like the rest of it, I'm like,
it's a bunch of newbies because they all went.
Well, for the sake of this podcast, and this time, they have them projected at 4 years, 14 million a year. So 30 million guaranteed, 56 million total. So 4 years, 14 a year. I don't think that's he's 26 years old. Is that too much, Nick?
Well, here's the part that getting into the details of it. So, because every lineman is different. So, like Joe Tooney's not a huge man. He's more of like a technician, and he's really smart. So he's really efficient with his movements. If he's going to lose, Brandon Thorne described it as he loses slowly. So, like, I'm losing, but he's still not going to give up a pressure or a sack. Like, it's okay. That's
better
the
than
worst.
It was last couple years with Caleb.
Better than adjusting immediately. So.
Those are his worst snaps, which I don't think he gave up a sack last year. But then Drew Dahlman, y'all, elite. Again, you use the word, I don't use it often, elite outside zone run blocker. Everything else, though, he's kind of like Coleman Shelton sized, okay? And if you're looking at like power, which is, I mean, they ran outside zone in Detroit, but they ran a lot of duo power coming at you. He doesn't have the size, the power, the movement there. And in pass pro, he's in a below average pass blocking center. So if you look at it, you're like, okay, unless we're going to be doing outside zone all day, and Brandon Thorne even said Atlanta hit him at times because of his limitations and what he has. So when I hear that, and he was a 4th round pick, and we have, like I said, the 2 guys that are already there, like how much are they going to have to like depend on the center? The center might not even have to make the line calls. You might like, hey, we could put a kid there, Tooney, Jackson, they're going to help him out. And the other reason why I don't want to pay him, we have to work on the D line. That's a huge part of this.
Huge. Good time to do it.
Let's say you put a kid in there. I love Zabel. Trade up from the 2nd round pick to get Zabel. You get Jared Wilson, who I like. Wyatt Millam. You sign Evan Brown, whatever. Someone that's less. I'm not saying Drew Dahlman isn't good. He's good. I don't think he's this like perfect walks on water type center, which I feel like Paris Twitter's at right now.
Well, we're desperate. That's why it's like that. We haven't had a good center since Olin.
Sam Mustipher.
But if you have the guard, do you need a great center is part of it. But the other part is this. Our O-line coach came from college, right? The last few years. I think our assistant O-line coach also came from college, right? When we're going to get a rookie, they recruited a lot of these guys. They've talked to college coaches who know these guys. It's not just the scouts. They'll have that insight. So they would probably know more on, hey, we can get this guy and he'll be 3/4 of what Drew Dalman will be. And then you save that $14 million and then you go get an edge, a D tackle, whatever else.
Look, that makes sense. You don't, because it is a unit, right? If you got 4 good pieces, normally maybe not with tackles because they're very more one-on-one, but like with your interior, as long as you got 2 out of 3 that are good to great, they can kind of make up for the one young guy that's in there. But if we saw last year, and I know every draft class is different, last year there was a bunch of decent centers that came out of that draft,
right.
That have a lot of potential. Actually, so much that people are like, Poles, that was the year to get your center, and of course you didn't, right? So I'm definitely on board for that. The counter argument would be, though, the draft is unpredictable. You never know where people are going to land. Obviously, that's the fun of it, but also sometimes the painful part, right? People jump in front of you, take your guy and all that. Free agency, you can lock up who you want. Sometimes you got to pay a little bit more, but you can lock up who you want. And Drew Dalman would be an upgrade. So again, this is very high level view of like, does this make our line better? Yes or no? You'd be like, yes. But when you get, which polls and coaches are doing, they're not just looking and being like, oh, that's an upgrade. They're looking at like scheme fit, size, like movement. They're looking at all that stuff to see how it would fit the offense they're trying to build there. What's hard for us though right now in that, especially, and I'll give some Bears fans credit, we're definitely high level because we don't even know what type of offense we're running.
Yeah.
Because, what they ran in Lions, obviously there might be some parts of that here. But is it going to be more of what? Because I think we ran a lot of outside zone last year, right? Now
we did. We were like out second or third. Yep.
Right. So you would look at that and go, okay, well, look, outside zone fit. Drew Dalman might be a good fit there. But if Ben Johnson comes in here and goes, well, we're not going to be running most of that. I'm more of like inside, like the duo, right? Well, then maybe that's not the case, and maybe Drew Dalman's not a fit. So I think
can I tell you something that might make you sick, Ficky?
Please, that's what this show.
I've said this on Twitter, and people are like, "Oh," they freak out. Okay, if the draft is unpredictable, which it is, and you have to like emergency break glass, this is our center. Ryan Bates is still on the team for $4 million per year. I know people are like, "Oh, he didn't work out last year. He was injured. He was going to be the center, likely him or Shelton." So if you draft a kid and he's terrible or whatever, like he's there for a reason. I don't think Ryan Bates is on the team for $4 million unless they think they're going to use him. He would already be cut and they would have saved the $4 million like they did DeMarcus Walker. So that's your emergency center if you don't like a kid or you didn't get anybody that you anticipate in free agency.
And I think you make a good point. And Dave, I'll go to you right this. I think you make a good point. The moves in the offseason, though, like already those trades have now given you flexibility to where we can have these discussions now. You don't have to go get Drew Dalman. But guess what? He's the top of your list if you don't trade for Jonah Jackson and Joe Thuney, right? Because now you have no interior. So now you got to put money into someone, okay, at least that's a big, big upgrade. And so now we kind of have that flexibility to be like, you can stick with Ryan Bates if we don't get our guy in the draft. We can go get someone in the draft with one of our second round picks. You could trade up with one of the second ones to get Zabel because I saw he's going to go like late first, early second. So you make a great argument there is that those moves make you feel, I think you said like calm or safe about how this offensive line is. And then now you can allocate funds in different areas. But sorry, I just want to end it with there, Dave.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to get to this super because it kind of happens to do with Dalman, but this is from Tito, $10. First of all, thank you, Tito. Guys, what are we saving money for? Why not spend on Dalman? Because Caleb is on his rookie deal. Rather spend on him, trade a second for Hendrickson out of Cincinnati and pick a DT with the second. Getting confused. Running back with 72. So first of all, Tito, thank you again for the $10. We appreciate it. I'm going to defer here to Nick here. Do you want to respond here? Why not? Why are you against, I guess, not against, because I think you would be fine with it, but going with Dalman? And I guess, how do you feel about Hendrickson? I think I've seen you tweet a little bit about potential packages.
Yep.
So
no, I'm pumped. I'm pumped for it because he should have been Defensive Player of the Year last year. The last time the Bears had an edge like this was like the initial excitement of Mack, and then Mack, sorry, y'all, didn't turn into this.
No.
I mean, Hendrickson, y'all had 17.5 sacks each of the last 2 years. I know some people are like, go get Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat's 2 best years in the league combined 19 sacks. Like it's like the tiers are just different.
No, this is
So-
a dog.
So in my mind, like let's just put these two things together. You're at 10. I'm not even sure Gentile will be there anymore, y'all, because the Raiders could take him.
6.
You trade down since he goes from 17 to 10. Maybe you add in your third. You get Trey Hendrickson. You pay him. It'll probably be high 20s to 30, somewhere in there, $1 million a year. That's where the money's coming from. And then at 17, Gray Zabel. And then all of a sudden you have your center who's young and everyone a lot of draft nicks love Gray Zabel. That's your center. You can groom and he could be your next Creed Humphrey-like guy. You have crazy good edge rusher on one side. You got Sweat on the other side. And then your other free agent guy, you want to get like maybe a veteran D tackle like a Javon Hargrave. And then boom, you got a squad. And that we're not even talking about second round picks. That's just initial.
I wouldn't be mad about it. You get me Trey Hendrickson,
Dude,
team, I'm going to be excited.
That is... I just need that to happen, Nick. Just the way you laid it out, man.
It's like perfect. It's a pipe.
Because Montez Sweat having somebody that I would say Hendrickson is better, right? Probably a tier or two even better than Sweat. Nothing against Sweat, but I'm just saying. But to have those both together,
Sweat's a better run stopper, though. I will give him that. Trey Hendrickson is not a good run stopper, but
either way,
I would go for him.
It's like pick your poison with these guys, and so. I wonder if that gets it done. You said moving from 10 to 17, and then you said a third.
Yeah. Pick swap and a third.
Yeah.
Initially, I had
pay him.
Initially, I had 2 pick swaps. Initially, I had 10 to 17, and then 39 to 49. Which either way, like, I don't care.
Maybe I'm off here because I had my notes here. I was thinking pick 17. So you swap 17, 10, and then a 7th rounder. That doesn't get the deal done.
Probably not.
I mean, I would say 10 to 17 is roughly like a 2nd rounder. So, I mean,
okay.
Maybe. Well, they did. Jonathan Jones from CBS said that they were looking for a day 2, and day 2 is round 2. So maybe a pick swap is enough because you got to pay him $30 million.
But even if you have to add the 7, 6, 5th, you think you do it every time here. It's just you do it. So
think of that. You keep your first. Right, you keep your first.
That's the big thing,
and your seconds, and
that's what
Trey.
And with that Mac deal in 2018, it was great, but it was expensive.
Yep.
What 3 first?
So expensive. Was it 3?
It was two ones, but then you got the Raiders 2.
Oh yeah.
So it was like a 1.5 basically.
To be fair, those picks didn't turn out to anything other than Josh Jacobs, but for the Raiders.
But it was still expensive. And Mac. He did play well first year, and then there was, I think, a really steady decline. But he's obviously picking up steam as far as the Bears' social. I know Ficky's a Debbie Downer over here.
Not a Debbie Downer. I just don't want people to get their hearts broken.
That's so funny.
Everyone's
like, I know I saw it.
Like,
but I'm over here. I'm just like enjoying seeing people just reminisce about the Mac era.
No,
because there's some good moments, and then all of a sudden I see a quote tweet from a guy named Ficky just saying, "Guys, you need to shut the hell up. This ain't happening. This is a social media account. Poles is not going to break anything."
Some of the comments that are funny because people are like, "Oh, this is like literally someone was like, no, Poles made this edit in this office." Like that's what people think. Like Poles cooked up this
tampering.
Highlight, press send.
Lost our 1st round pick.
For sure.
Oh my gosh.
Look, it could, like, I'm not saying it can't happen because again, shout out Jonathan Jones again. Jonathan Jones had tweeted about it about 2 weeks ago or like last week, right? Said that there's momentum for Chicago. And then, which he doesn't do, I can't remember who looked at his tweets. It may have been DWC. I think he may have looked at it and said that he like looked at some of his past stuff, and Jonathan Jones doesn't normally like comment on on team social media videos, right? And he was like, interesting that they chose Khalil Mack. So he's kind of like said
not
momentum
even that.
for Mac.
There was a clip, and if you don't know what we're talking about on Spotify, or if you're listening audio or whatever, if you go to the Bears social account, I think on Twitter and on Instagram, it was "Leave a Legacy" was the quote, and then the video was a bunch of Bears legends: Peanut Tillman, Brian Urlacher, I think was on there.
Even Jalen Johnson was on there.
But they only got one clip each. The person that got 4,
Khalil Mack.
4 clips.
And
everyone else got 1 clip. 4 freaking clips for Khalil Mack. And if that's not, I'm not saying that they're announcing anything because they have not made a deal or anything. They wouldn't do that. But I think this is like hey, we're trying to pull you back here. Come back for maybe a discount, unfinished business. Maybe this is a huge reach, but in my mind, Bears fan mind, I'm like, I love it. It's diabolical. It's free agency at its peak. Right. I need it to happen. And then, of course, Fick, my co-host. That's why I love you. Debbie Downer.
I got a question.
That smile you have, you better turn that shit upside
down. Yeah.
All right, I got a question. I put this tweet actually before we aired. Because I have Sport Track has estimates of what they think the edges are going to cost. How much would you guys pay to get Khalil Mack back? Where you think like, hey, that's a reasonable number?
Okay, so
I cheated. Oh, sorry, you go, Fick.
Wait, no, yeah, because I actually didn't look at it.
Okay,
I didn't look at his tweet. I'm just saying.
I didn't look at. I don't know Max value.
Okay.
I don't want to pay $20 million for someone who's 33 going on 34.
Okay,
that's probably what he's gonna get with someone, but I personally don't want to pay that. Now I'll pay $30 million for someone who's 30 because the data shows, first off, that defense, except super elite ones, like I don't think Myles Garrett's going to decline, but typically for defensive ends, they really start to fall off a cliff once they hit the year 30. It's like the opposite of offensive linemen. Like offensive linemen don't fall off to like 34, right?
Did you see my tweet I put out like 2 weeks ago?
Maybe. 2 weeks ago, probably. The one before this, no.
Yeah, so it was, I studied and looked since 2004, every double-digit sack season, and then I really looked at like when guys fell off. I counted, I think it was 6 different players had double-digit sack season after they turned 33. Peppers was one.
Hall of Famer.
Who was it? James Hall, randomly.
James Hall from the Chiefs? James Hall? Is that
James Hall for Detroit?
How old was Robert Quinn?
Detroit.
Robert Quinn was 31, I think.
So that counts.
Okay, he
broke a Bears record. Crazy. Yep. Then fell off.
Who else was it? Terrell Suggs did it.
I
mean, but again, they're only 6. Like you look like Dwight Freeney didn't do it. Von Miller didn't. Like you go through the list, like since 04, that's a lot of pass rushers that didn't get it done. And to me, like if you get Mack, expect again good run stopper too, but like don't anticipate a double-digit sack season. And of all the guys that did it, all 6 guys, none of them hit 12 sacks. It was all like 10 and a half, 11 and a half. Like, so you're not going to get a monster season. So on Sport Track, they estimate $23.6 million per year for Mack.
Like Shark Tank, I'm out. I am out. That is so much money. I like if you get them for a discount, I get it. Also, I know sacks aren't the only thing that you grade a defensive end by, right? But even his last really productive season, which was not last year, but the year before that, where he had like 16 sacks or something like that, he had 6 in a game. So at one point, like in the season, he didn't have that many, and he doubled his sack production in one game, which is impressive. Almost broke a record, or maybe he tied it. I can't remember. Yeah. But it's again, like I think we're sold on the nostalgia of Mack, but we're going to get a Mack that's still an upgrade. So high level, this still upgrades the team. So I'm not going to be like boo-hoo about it. But if you're talking about the value of like the dollar amount versus what that dollar amount would typically get you, I don't feel it's worth it. Now, compared to Trey Hendrickson, 4 years younger, 2 years, right? Back-to-back years of super high production is much better, because then a fall off from there is way more like, okay, maybe it's only 12 sacks. Then the next fall off is 8 sacks, right? That production drop off is, you can handle that. But someone who already wasn't super high and he's 4 years older or 3 years older, and you're only saving $7 million, nah, I'm out.
So for me with Mack, because I think I was looking around 20 million a year, and I was going by PFF. So I think even Sport Track has them a little bit higher, about 3.5 million higher. I think that's crazy. I think and I don't understand why his market is that high. It just doesn't make sense to me, because I know he's a good player and there's the name. I get that as well. But it's like, for me, him coming to Chicago was on a way different deal, a lot cheaper. Of course, pay him, but I was thinking maybe, is it crazy to think 12, 13 million a year?
That's what
I thought. That's what I thought. I was like, okay, that makes sense. But then even if they were to make that move, I would still want something else, because I I think there has to be a difference maker alongside Montez Sweat, and I'm not sure Khalil Mack would be that type of guy. I think he would be a very, very good piece, but I think there's another step they need to do to really make that defensive line kind of jumpstart it for next year. So for me, if it had, and how Poles is kind of operating right now, it looks like he is looking to deal, right? Bring in players that are not hitting the or not in free agency. So like Joe Thuney, Trey Hendrickson, which I think he was made available last year, correct? And I'm not sure if there's ever sniffed around that. He was or wasn't?
No, he was. He wanted. Did he get franchise tag? I can't remember. T. Higgins got franchise tag twice, so he wanted out, but the Bengals were like, "Nah, we're keeping."
Yeah, you. Yeah. Anyways, for me, if you're gonna spend big time money, like 20-something million plus, I think you have to go bigger. Like you can just do better. You know.
Can I give a comparison though? Von Miller with the Bills. 29 or no, he was 3 years ago, 33. So about the same age, I think, right? Because he's 36 now. He's going on 36, right? In 2022, he signed it. This is crazy, by the way. Bills are nuts. 6-year, $120 million deal. So basically on average, $20 million a year. It's backloaded though. It was like a million. Then now it's like 17, 19. No, that's crazy. They're screwed there. But if you look at that contract, has Von Miller, just simple, yes or no, has he lived up to that contract on the Bills?
No.
Well, no. Yeah, but the real money of that isn't like 20 million a year. It's probably, like you're saying, the guaranteed money is probably like 1.5 or 2.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But no, he hasn't. And again, like I'm saying, like pass rushers don't age well. So my take is this. Like again, I've been anti Drew Dahlman for y'all. It's an upgrade. But I'm just saying, don't pay him 15, 16, 17, 18 million dollars a year. If you get him for 12 or 13, I'm in. Okay. Now, a lot of people don't like this. I would go for a couple of younger type guys, potentially. Milton Williams with the Eagles.
That's a good one.
A younger pass rush guy in there. Him, Billings, Dexter. Then you draft a guy on day 2 at D tackle because it's deep. Then you got your rotation at D end. Azeez Ojulari for the Giants. He's just a pass rushing type guy. He's young, 24, 25. Another one guys don't like me mentioning, Chase Young. Chase Young is big. He can do the run stopping stuff.
Rumors are, Nick, sorry, I don't want to cut you off because I don't want you to get too rumors are that he's
Slick Rick, the dog with the hat.
I don't believe that shit. Like,
bro, well, to be fair, man, he's been on fire this offseason.
He's also got stuff wrong.
Yeah, for sure. No,
I need to hear, and nothing is, I just need to hear it from another reputable.
No, that's fair. Yeah, that is totally fair. I'm just saying the man's been on fire this offseason.
I know. But people don't like Chase Young because of the connotation and few things. So his price is lower, y'all.
Yeah, for sure.
7th among all DNs and pressures last year. So if you get him at not a crazy number, like if it's 20 or more, I'm out, right? If it's somewhere in there, that's okay. Then you have him, you draft another DN on day 2, and you start getting things going there. So I don't know that we have to go old, right? We could get some young guys and we can mix this in together. So you have some guys for the run with Caleb and his rookie contract.
Yeah. But the marketing and the what's the word?
Sorry. Can you bring up the last comment? Sorry, Dave. Jack, can you bring up the last one? I haven't seen Jack in Sears Tower today. So Jack is in the background tweeting from his burner, Sears Tower.
Jack, are you there still? He might even be paying attention.
I'm paying attention. I'm locked in always.
Yeah, thank you, Jack.
Do I kind of sound like ongoing right now? Is it like God speaking to you guys?
Basically.
Yeah, I'm looking up.
Feel my presence.
For sure. Yeah. That's hilarious. Sears Tower did make an appearance back on. I don't know if you guys saw that. He did peer his head back on Twitter this week. So it is interesting that the 1 week that Jack's not on here.
I can't stand that though.
Appearance. Yeah, for sure. No, but Nick, I think you make a great point on the young, going younger.
I don't know about great.
Yeah, good. Yeah. But I think the good thing, though, I will say with this, sorry, I just realized I cut you off, Dave. That's my fault. But Poles normally doesn't overpay. So I don't think we really have to, at least we haven't seen it yet. We do not have to worry about like that scenario where their value's so high and then we end up doing a deal because we haven't seen that yet. Every deal has been, now some of them didn't turn out. Like Nate Davis is technically an overpay because Nate Davis didn't play a fucking snap. Right. But the value for Nate Davis and what we got him at in his evaluation, we were like, oh, we'll take that. So I feel less concerned. Like if the prices are too high, I just feel like they're not going to be on the Bears. Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
No, it's all right. It'll be interesting to see how this free agency plays out. If there is a deal where like, oh wow, because I think Dahlman is he comes to mind because I don't think he has a lot of competition. Right? Is that fair to say this free agent?
Who's the next center? Kelly?
He's above everybody. I just feel like I feel like he's going to demand. I think there could be a bidding war. It'll be interesting to see if Poles messes around and ultimately pays him what he needs to pay to get him to come to Chicago. So outside of the edge rushers, I thought I do see your tweet here. There is quite a few other names here. Darrell Taylor, he was on your list, which he made a couple big plays last year, but then disappeared for a couple games. However, Hassan Reddick, $11.7 million a year. That's not bad.
Still an upgrade. Still an upgrade.
Yeah. Anyways, I think it's just a very exciting time of the year, though. I'm excited about what free agent. I can't believe it's right. What, Monday is when we'll probably start getting deals, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Wednesday they can be announced. Is that right?
I love how it's like tampering, but now it's like legal tampering. It's so America.
They just put legal in there, right?
Yeah, it's like it's okay now.
Yeah, you just gotta add that.
Even though the tampering has been going on since the combine.
Oh yeah,
let's be real. So yeah, it's just legal now, which means we can talk about it on Twitter. So
no, I'm super hyped about it because I think free agency that's when I get excited about the draft. And I know people talk about the draft for months. For me, this is when it gets real serious because you kind of get a better idea how the chips are going to fall, what teams are going to be, what was filled, what needs are actually still available. Obviously, the draft is the draft. So, I mean, there's always going to be curveballs, especially first couple rounds. So I'm just hyped about it. Nick, let me see here. Ficky, do you have any other questions before we kind of get Nick out of here?
I don't think so. I mean, I guess like grading like I would say, what is your view on like the potential of this team so far? Like, I think we would all feel when the season ended, right? Mm-hmm. Like 0 out of 10, we're like, oh, maybe we got a 1 because we beat the Packers. But then when you sit there and we don't have our coach and all that, you're like, holy shit, that season sucked. None of us really felt great about what just happened, right? That whole season, my God, was just a roller coaster of dog shit, okay? And you get to the offseason, Ben Johnson, Dennis Allen, right? Some of these great assistants like Antoine Randall L, Al Harris. And then you get to the free agency, and then you have these 2 trades, Jonah Jackson, we talked about, and then Joe Thuney, right? How would you, like, out of 10, first say, like, where were you once the season ended? Where are you now feeling like the future projection of how good the team can be?
Oh man, like when the season ended, I was probably like a 5. That's mainly just because we had Caleb. And that was like when it was like, oh man, are we gonna get Pete Carroll or Mike McCarthy?
Mike McCarthy.
But here's the thing that's got me so hyped. And this is gonna take a little minute, but I'm trying to make it quick. If you had to like, think of like those, I don't know, those dream boards, vision boards, whatever. You're like, okay, hey, think of the past like 5 to 10 years. Who would be the number 1 head coach that hasn't been head coach before? Who would you have on the list? And like Kyle Shanahan, I don't know if he fits into that list. He might be there, right? But Ben Johnson would be like 2, because like people are, well, Kevin O'Connell now when he got hired,
no,
LaFleur, etc. So you have like one of the best head coaching candidates of the last 5-10 years, and the Bears got him. Then you look at quarterback prospects coming out. Okay, Jane Daniels, people, you can chill out. I'm saying now, okay, like not now. Back when they came out, people were saying Caleb with maybe since Luck, maybe since Burrow, right, etc. So you're pairing together like the best coach of the coming out 5 to 10 years with quarterback, and now you pair in. You look at the draft class. This isn't the year to get a receiver. They got Rome last year. Okay, they timed that out pretty well. Now we just added in Thuney and Jackson to protect everything. Like everything is aligning. It's like, man, could this be more perfect? It seems like we're stumbling into it. Don't get me wrong, everybody. But you're like, man, this is going together well. Like if you add in the pass rushers to go with this and a center, and y'all, again, you can get Dahlman. I just don't want it to be crazy priced.
Yeah.
It seems like, I don't know how Chicago can win less than 10 games next year. Like, they are like, if you get a decent center and you sign at least one lineman, and I don't care what they do in the draft, I'm not sure that I'm that scared of playing anybody, because they could be loaded for next year too. And when you look at like Green Bay, who went 1-5 in the division and should have lost to the Bears both times and went 0-6, they got holes all over the place. You look at Detroit, they lost both coordinators.
They lost all their coaches.
And Lions fans,
basically all of them.
Yeah, they hate us. Lions fans hate us now, you know. And then you look at the interviews. Ben Johnson's funny. Like, he says stuff and you're like, dude, that guy's funny. And talking about, you know, what he would sacrifice for 10 Bears Super Bowls with Big Cat and versus having Flus. Dude, I'm at a 9 because like the Bears are entertaining, and it's not just hopium. Like, Ben Johnson's proven to be good. Caleb's done like those things. It seems like the world is aligning where, you know, like the Cubs overcame the curse. It feels like the Bears are going to overcome the curse like pretty soon here.
I think that's
hope
a
so.
great point. Yeah, we fucking hope so.
Yeah.
But I think that's great. I think that's a great point because these guys are proven. They've proven it. Maybe not as a head coach or Ben Johnson, but you know, from the offensive play calling side of the 3 years of just being dominant. So
Joe Tooney has proven it.
Proven, right? Like, these are guys that are at some point recently. This isn't like they proved it 10 years ago, aka Khalil Mack. These are guys that are proven of recent that they can do it.
Tooney, when he comes in,
to get Hendrickson.
Proven, recent, proven. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Give me guys. That's why I'm okay with paying. Like, if you're going to overpay in free agency, it's for the guys that have shown that they can do it. So all of these guys, well, first of all, Jonah Jackson is not a big overpay or anything like that, so I'm not too concerned with that. But like, when you're thinking of Joe Tooney, which is the contract extension is going to be big, or if you trade for Trey Hendrickson, that's worth it. You're taking away one of the biggest risks. You're mitigating the risk because you know what they are.
Here's another one. Oh, God. Sorry, Dave. I'm sorry.
I was going to say it's not even free agency because you're doing it.
Oh, true.
While they're on contract. So it's because free agencies, sometimes it just doesn't work out more often than not. But trades, there's a reason why you got to trade for them. So, anyways,
and another one we didn't even mention, dude, it looks so cancerous what Myles Garrett's going through in Cleveland. God. He could be someone that they trade for. Like, he's going to be out there. We need a D-end. We got money. We got picks Cleveland's going to want. So, like, you go through any of those, and you're like, dude,
we get Myles Garrett.
We could be a squad next year, y'all.
Myles Garrett gives me Mac vibes, though, because you're going to have to give up the
Myles Garrett is
No, production. I'm not saying production. I'm saying how much you're going to have to give up. And they're not even – they're pigeon-toeing him right now. They're not even letting him explore. So I feel like because they're not open to the trade, that it's going to cost, like, so much. But it is.
And that's where it's interesting with Brad Biggs, Chicago Tribune. This is why they're kind of pivoting. I think the Bears are – I think they're more focused on that defensive line right now because Biggs, he goes, the Bears have the cap space, flexibility to pursue Dahlman, which we talked about, and a marquee player for the defensive line. Maybe tackle Milton Williams or Josh Sweat. Also, he talked about former Bears edge rusher Khalil Mack, potentially reunion there. But one player personnel director from another team predicted the 2 trades for offensive linemen might signal that the Bears are pivoting to defensive line for free agency, which is Monday. So it looks like, could it be through? I hope they do the Trey Hendrickson because that is. And also, wasn't he the guy that tapped him on the head?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Caleb Williams last year. Yeah. I like him. I think the vibes, I think he would fit really well in Chicago, but I think it's interesting whether it's the free agency or even through another trade. I think that is the target right now. Outside of maybe center.
3 trades in a week though, or like 2 weeks. Has that been done? Like I'm trying to think back. That's so many trades. I know,
but it's this time of the year.
Yeah.
It's true, but I'm like, that's a lot. But we have the cap space, so it makes sense, and we have the picks. So shout out to Poles for letting us have that flexibility.
Yep.
I want to see aggressiveness, man. You got to be aggressive this year. This is I feel like he feels it. He knows it too.
Even though he probably got a contract extension, but yes, he definitely understands. Yeah. Ben Johnson feels it. Comes out and says, "Look, this is a win now team. Yeah. This isn't the same team." Like, to give Flus some grace, when Flus came in, that team was nowhere ready to win. Okay,
this team they absolutely were.
Oh, that team
kidding.
That team was.
You're about to ran into me, bro.
Wait a minute.
Kid, how many Bears can you name from that first year with Flus?
Well, the good ones all left. Roquan for like 4 games.
Yep.
Jalen Johnson was there. Cole Kmet, because they were the only ones who were still on the team.
Mustafa was at center.
Mustafa, that was tough.
Was Cody Whitehair still there?
Whitehair
No.
and sack record.
Mr. Quinn.
Yeah, Quinn. Robert was still there.
Oh, good call. Yeah, that's right.
Wait, and was
Mack
Mack
there?
there? Mack was there too. They trade him to the Chargers.
Yeah.
I don't think he was there the first year. They traded him before, I think, that year.
Poles is the one that traded him.
Oh, it was Poles' first year then. That's Poles' first year.
Oh,
so
that'd
been Flus's.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there was anyone that was like good or like average out the door. Everyone who was ass, you got a starting job. So that's why we don't remember those players, because we try to delete that from our mind. So
Dude,
yeah,
it
whole
was
different.
rough.
I mean, look, that's why we're so upset about the season. This team underperformed, because when you look at a talent level, you're like, you were
the coaches underperformed.
100%. We all know that. And because of that, you've already upgraded your front office and your coaching. So you already lifted your floor up. So you already think you can win more games. And then now you've added in more talent to add on to that, right? I'm not saying this is a Super Bowl team, but your expectation is that, okay, this team's going to, if it was the exact same team, they would perform much better than they did last year. And now we're adding on extra talent. So that increases your odds to get closer to those double-digit wins. And we haven't even hit free agency yet. We still have the draft. So I'm with you, Nick. Like, there's actual legit logical reasons to be excited about this team. And for the third offseason in a row, which hopefully will lead to regular season wins, the Bears have won the offseason, and it's not even over. So.
And I got a PSA, because I have someone asking in here what I think about Milton Williams, how much he's going to cost. Before free agency starts, okay, things are going to come out. You'd be like, wow, that's a crazy high contract. You have to look at the guaranteed money, because as we saw, some of these guys are getting cut and they're not even seeing the end of that contract. So really, it's the guaranteed money is really all that matters. In the first, probably 1-2 years, maybe 3 years. That's the last
3.
4 or 5 is going to be nothing. So
doesn't matter.
Like Milton Williams, I think is going to be probably average around 21 to 23 million a year. Is my gut. Was the second best pass rusher, I think, per PFF for D tackles. He's 25 or 26. So he's going to be costly, but I don't know that that's how much money he's actually going to make. You're gonna, as you guys were saying, the first year can be a cheap year, and then it progressively gets more expensive, and then you cut guys. I mean, just like DeMarcus Walker, that's how things work. Yeah. So I don't think it's going to end up being that expensive.
You know what's crazy? This week I found out, because the NFL contracts are crazy, and I kind of just want to do a deep review to make sure I'm on top of my game. There's never been anyone in the NFL that's had guaranteed money in the 4th year. And guaranteed money in the 3rd year, the best example of that is Kirk Cousins, because it was all full guaranteed for the first 3 years. And that was like the first of its time I think that was when he went to the Vikings. But yeah, no one in NFL history has had a 4th year guaranteed money, except technically the Patrick Mahomes deal, because it's a super long deal. But what it is, it's called a rollover guarantee.
Yeah.
And he's not the first to do it, but he's like the first big one with that type of money. Every year that he's still on contract through like that 6-year deal, the following year then turns into guaranteed money. So, and obviously he's going to be there for a while. So that'll probably be like the first full guaranteed one that goes like multiple years. But that's interesting, right? NFL contracts are funny, because like half of that money doesn't even poof, it's gone. You cut them, they never see it. So sucks for the players, because MLB, NBA, that's like fully guaranteed, most of that. So
yes, damn shame they're making just a few million, dollars every year.
Yes, for sure.
I don't know how they survive, man. Anyways, no, it is interesting. The contracts are so different, especially NBA money is different.
MLB too. If you're like top tier, you get like
MLB,
600 million. You're locked in. It's like, what is that?
There's no cap.
No cap either. Yeah,
MLB.
It's crazy.
So, anyways, Nick, we'll get you out of here. We're going over an hour. First of all, appreciate your time, man. I know how am I forgetting it? It's the Hallis
Beat.
The Hallis Beat. You guys check it out. We'll have it linked here in the description. Nick, it's always a pleasure. Anything you got going on right now? Any last final words?
I just appreciate you guys having me on. I have so much fun with you guys. Like, seriously, I mean, I've been in leagues with Dave, and I talked to Ficky. Like, you guys are just my friends. So this is always a treat when I can come on here, man. So I appreciate it. Also, Jack, from behind the scenes, love you too.
Awesome,
hey, man. We appreciate you, Nick. We'll get you on after, maybe post free agency, maybe before the draft too. But we appreciate you, man. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. and as always, bear down. So appreciate you, Nick.
All right. See you,
Thanks,
boys.
Nick. Appreciate it. Later.
See you, brother. All right. Look, he wasted no time.
Jack
Mr. Jack said, I need to get in here. Yeah. Jack. I don't even want to say why. I'm not really happy with Jack, but I'm not gonna put it on the podcast. Just nothing to do with my Marvel Rivals or anything like that.
It has 100% to do with Marvel Rivals.
Yeah, no, Jack, thank you for behind the sticks, man. Shout out to Nick Whalen hopping on the pod.
Nick's great.
Always a pleasure having him on. I like that when we bob, he weaves. Typically, when it comes to Bears fans,
he's a good devil advocate.
Yes, he's very, very good. And he's smart. He's smart, man. That's why he can't get mad at it, right? I love the way he kind of looks at things. His analysis and everything is always so good. So check it out. He has a new pod with Usad Kosal. Yeah, I may have totally gypped that, but check it out. It's super informative.
Check out his Twitter too, _@ Nick Whalen as well. He's a great follow. So,
and then shout out to Robert Schmitz. I know he's retired from Bears. That's how bad the Bears were last year. They made a couple people retire.
That's tough on the mental.
They made CHO blow up. It's a whole organization. Fucking
honestly, see it. I don't. Yeah, never mind. I was just gonna say, like, honestly, do you think the Bears were so bad that the numbers weren't high? And that could affect not just CHGO, but other companies too.
Yeah, for sure.
Because there's
people don't want to. When you lose 10 games in a row, people don't want to tune in.
Dude, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like
they don't have loyal fans like the BFR fans here, because we're the number one show for the fans by the fans.
I didn't even get to.
Yeah, look at that.
Got the little hoodie on.
Speaking of that, and I probably should do an ad read. I'll do it real quick since
we'll do it real quick. We're getting out of here anyway.
Yeah. So first of all, if this is your first time, we really do appreciate it. Thank you for being for the BFR show, joining the BFR show, the number one show for the fans, by the fans, because Dave, Jack, and I are all fans like you. We go through the highs and lows just like you, the smiles, the tears, the pain, the joy. So we really do appreciate you all joining us here today. If this is your first time, thank you so much. Please leave a hashtag new face gang in the chat. We'll make sure to give you a shout out before the end of the show, which is here soon. Also, if you're an OG, which I know a lot of you in here, because I see familiar faces in the chat, which means that this is not your first time watching, but this is your second, or you've watched all 100 and something. I can't remember the number at this point, but if you watched a lot of us and you've seen these pretty faces, you're definitely an OG. Please leave a hashtag OG in the chat. We'll give you a shout out before the end of the, not Jackson. There it is. Before the end of the show. Okay. Sorry, you can tell we've been going for an hour because we're losing our minds here. But also, if you want to support us, like and subscribe. It is free. It's for the algorithm. It helps this show grow to reach other fantastic, awesome fans like y'all, because we're really trying to build a community here. So please like and subscribe. Even if you do it at the end of the show, if you already subscribed, shout out to you. If not, please do. Make sure to tell a friend, tell your friend to tell a friend, tell your friend to tell an enemy's friend. Like, let everyone know about the BFR community. Yeah, I was trying to follow that logic there too. But we're just trying to grow. This is basically my point. But if you do want to support us as well, like Dave and I said, we do have merch on the BFRstore.com. Little sneak peek here. Our Grizzly members, part of our Patreon, which I'll talk about here in a second, we do have new merch that is going to be dropping on the week of the draft. But if you join our Patreon, you're going to get access to it first. Also, I'm thinking about some other value adds for the Patreon, which we'll be announcing here soon. So you guys definitely should join the Patreon. It's the BFR Den on Patreon. Shout out Tito, because he joined as a Hall of Fame Grizzly member. And shout out to our Hall of Fame Grizzly members. Probably won't be able to remember all the names of them. Oh, it's like Michael, Tito, another Michael. I tried. Oh, my gosh.
It's all good. We know who you are.
Yeah. The OGs, you guys know who you are. Yeah, thank you.
Doesn't know who he is.
I don't even know why I tried to attempt that. Like, I can remember my own last name. So shout out to y'all. And we also do have our private Zoom call tomorrow.
Status, right?
Yep. For sure. I'm getting old. We do have our private Zoom call tomorrow morning. So if you want to join now and have your private Zoom call with Dave and I, make sure you can hop in now. Jack will not be there. He has to work, unfortunately. But you can join. And if you don't make it this one, we do these every month. That's the best part about being the Hall of Fame tier member, $10 a month. If not, you can join for $3, get access to our private Discord, some merch stuff. Also, you get our monthly mailbag episodes, and we do giveaways for our merch for free every month. That's right, for free. So you can get your money back within a month, a couple months. It's fantastic. So shout out to y'all. Again, you can go to the BFRstore.com. You can go to Patreon, the BFR Den, support us there. And if not, just like and subscribe. We appreciate all the support. And make sure to leave those hashtags so you can get a shout out before we head out here. Woo! Sorry.
I'm already thinking of some ideas for the Hall of Fame members that I can.
Ooh, we love that. We love that.
Like
I'm
maybe
like
Look, we're cooking. We're trying to bring more and more value.
Like you just talk to me. Like fuck the Zoom call. You can FaceTime me. I'll give you my number.
Why don't- Yeah, we love it. Look,
you can hit me up. I don't mind.
Basic Jack saying, "Look, I need some more friends." We get it. We've all been
It's
there.
ironic that he says terrific value the second I say that.
It is though.
Terrific value.
We really try to bring as much value as we can. Like it's
Yeah.
One-on-one
we really want to
FaceTime.
build a community.
With Jack_BFR. I like it.
Yep.
Yeah, we're just gonna throw that on there. That's the free
What is
package,
around the house
maybe?
I can do.
Free package.
You know,
Yeah. Free package.
free package.
You know,
Oh.
I'll be there
Gonna
all
get
day.
blown up, brother.
yeah, exactly. We just give out his phone number on there. Fucking it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so you can have my phone number.
Yeah. Or he can play Marvel Rivals with him since he doesn't play with.
No, that
me
is true.
anymore.
Actually, we have some people in there that have played with us because they joined the Patreon. So it's another way to get access to us on the sticks.
Well,
So
sorry, Fick, to cut you off. Did they say that they can play that time or no? We just like guessed
what time?
it would be on.
10 a.m.
oh, wait,
Just
you
any of the
guys are doing,
people.
you guys are doing some
Yeah.
behind the scenes stuff, some inside jokes that
Confused,
none of
I
our
guess.
fans
No,
right now understand.
No,
Little
but no,
confused.
to get really back on track, the support from the Patreon has been awesome. The merch is great. I'm excited what we got cooking. And like I said, if there's one thing you can do here before you get out of here, hit that like button. It really does help grow the show. You guys have been doing it. We appreciate it. Next week is going to be jam-packed. We're probably going to have a couple episodes, at least one, because it is free agency. We're going to react to the news. I know Ficky's going to be traveling, but we're going to get that episode in when we
I'm gonna try
need
to
it.
get on there too. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you guys stay tuned. Hit that subscribe button. We're going to be reacting through free agency, the draft, and a lot of stuff we're cooking up. So love the support. Anything else, boys, before we get out of here?
Let's do the shout outs. Oh, and then I did remember the OG I missed. It was Gage. So shout out to Gage.
Okay.
The number one person. I probably should remember that, but for the Hall of Fame Grizzly. But let's go ahead and get to these shout outs. Speaking of a Hall of Fame Grizzly, we got Michael in here with the hashtag OG. Where my other OGs at? Fuck Green Bay. Then we got Alex Hamilton, also a Patreon member. Rookie Grizzly here with hashtag OG. Can't wait for Monday to arrive. Dahlman, get ready to learn deep dish. I love that. Kyler Villagomez, which last episode created a funny clip, but hashtag OG and then hashtag Ashton Genty. We didn't talk about that, but I think people are more on board to get him now that the O-line's been secured. Then Romy here with the hashtag OG. I think that's Romy Jeromez. I think you just did the first name now, but hashtag OG Ashton or bust. If we get Ashton, some people might. Okay, I won't go there. Eric Grant on Facebook with the hashtag OG. Bear down. You guys are awesome. Really do appreciate that. And that is it. Also, I want to give a shout out to our podcast listeners as well. You guys are fantastic. You guys are leaving comments on those. We respond to those. Some new listeners we got this week. First time. Thank you for stumbling upon the number one show for the fans, by the fans. We appreciate all of your support wherever you like to watch, stream, and listen. So thank you all.
Love it. Bear down. We'll be back next week. A lot of stuff coming.
Absolutely. Peace.